Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 445, and today we're doing battle with Poppy, Taric, Galio. And so this is going to be our first set of battles in the Heart of the Huntress variety patch. We're now switching over to the space of Eternal and looking to take advantage of some of the new cards there. And so the newest bro appearing in the Poppy, Taric, Galio deck we'll be playing today is going to be Balin the Formidable. Or Balin the Formidable would make sense, right? Being such a formidable bro. Balin the Benevolent, the one that we're really looking to take focus in on today. And whenever he attacks, he gives your formidable allies everywhere +0/+1. And so, as we have recently come out of this format, having Siren Song running amok and giving the +1/+1 to the one cost units everywhere, I think it's very important to come in and kind of examine these everywhere cards as they make an appearance. And so, Balin, my initial impression with Balin in terms of the format that we're about to jump into is that he's kind of like one formidable short of really being interesting, in the sense that, do we really want to be playing cards like Petricite Hounds in our deck to really maximize the number of formidables into our deck? And do we really want to use this guy on his own if we don't draw any of the other combos? And in my practice games, I've been pretty happy with Balin. I feel like just being a 5 power of sorts attacker on his own is reasonably enough to get him involved in combat. And then we have some other combos that can really help his stack gain along the way that makes him much more reasonable. And so I kind of felt like there were two spaces that you could really fit a Balin deck in these days. You could go towards Freylord and look to go after the stance swaps, getting the +0/+2 stance that gives regenerate, and placing it on a Petricite Broadwing gives you just a really resilient and high. I keep wanting to call them high-powered attackers. That's sort of what they are, but it gives you that really resilient, high-powered attacker that can just take over the game on its own if you get that over onto a Petricite Broadwing. But I was more kind of compelled and inclined to look towards this Poppy Taric shell, in the sense that the more times you get to attack with Balin the Benevolent, the more times his ability is going to activate, and then the stronger he should be over the course of the game. And so the high-powered scalingness out of the Poppy Taric style decks of days past is where I felt like this would be an interesting fit and an interesting spot. And so if you're not familiar with Poppy Taric, the idea with this style of deck is, in the early turns of the game, we're just going to do a little bit of board control. So we're going to use Fleet Feather Tracker and Petricite Broadwing, along with the unit boosty style units in Esmith and Tyari, to just keep your opponent's smaller units at bay. While we do this, we're ideally going to be building up more and more board, and then getting a gigantic unit booster in play. And so in days of past, that would be, say, using Poppy to boost 3 or 4 or 5 different units. Mountain Sojourners is another fantastically powerful card, in that if we have, say, Sojourners into Esmith, into Tyari, into a Fleet Feather Tracker, that is just a mountain of stats that you get to deploy across the entirety of the board. And so we want to build up these big boards and then just have everything grow exponentially, whether or not it's from Poppy or from Mountain Sojourners. Or now we get to add Balin into the mix, and that he can boost Petricite Broadwings, Petricite Hounds, Petricite Chargers, and then the Galios that are probably hanging out in our deck. And so with this style of deck, I feel like as we were adding in Balin the Benevolent as a 4-cost card, that we could cut back on some of the Poppy and Taric, since I don't really want to be playing 9 4-drops in the deck. That's really just asking for our hand to get clogged up and never be able to really get all of these units on board. So we have cut back on the Poppy and Tarics to 2 copies each, but now include Galio. And Galio is kind of right on theme with what we're trying to do with this deck, in the sense that he makes our bigger boards even bigger and stronger, giving the +3 health to all the units on the board. As you can imagine, giving that bonus to 5 units is better than giving it to 3. As we always say with Poppy, we would rather give her bonus to 5 units than 3. It's just similar ideas all across the board. But he also ties into the rally aspects, in that we have the Golden Aegisuses and Relentless Pursuits to give us some rally action, and the flipped Galio giving us additional rallies as well. And so the last really kind of like high-powered combo thing I want to talk about before we run amok with this deck is the rally effects with Taric. And so if you're not familiar with Taric, as you cast a spell on him, he copies that spell onto his supported unit. And so typically you're looking to just use value-based combat tricks, right? So we play a Pale Cascade onto Taric, we draw a card, he supports the Pale Cascade onto the next unit, we get to draw another card while also getting that combat trick style bonus. But what if we were to cast a Golden Aegis onto Taric? And so we get the rally. That's sweet. We get that attack in on the board. Now Taric copies that Golden Aegis onto the next unit, gives us a fresh rally, and we get to attack again. And so this can put us into spots to where we attack on our turn. Taric survives, yay, go us. Then we cast the Golden Aegis onto Taric. We get a rally, so we get to attack a second time. And then with that supported Golden Aegis going over onto the next unit, we'll get a rally again and get to attack a third time. And so as we talk about these scaling bonuses that we get from attackers, like from Poppy attacking multiple times, from Balin attacking multiple times, if we're getting to attack 2 and 3 times in a turn, we're getting multiple opportunities to use those stat bonuses to come in and overwhelm our opponents. And so that's it. That's the deck. That's what we're doing battle with today. I checked in on the pay-to-win price, and we're good to go. Balin's epic. We're not going to turn him premium just yet. Galio's not turned premium. Sad day for him. But everyone else across this thing looking nice, looking shiny, feeling pretty good. So let's see, reasonable enough start with Taric and Petricide Broadwing. The question would be, do we want to hang on to Taric? And I think if we were on the even attacks, we would be pretty okay with it, right? We could play Broadwing on 2, Taric on 3, Taric on turn 4, and get good use of mana along the whole way. But being on the odd attacks, I'd like to kind of come up and find another unit that we can drop here in the early game. Look at this, Team Petricide really coming to party. Taric said, you can't get rid of me that easily. Yeah, we gotta see what we can do if we can just pop off with the Balin now that we just have the full-on Petricite curve. All right, so no Zoes from opponent. That's always a nice start for us. We can continue in with the Petricide Broadwing now. A little bit of the awkward note with the Hound here, as we have a lot of 2-cost spells in our deck. We'd like to be able to play a 2-cost combat trick on this turn. Not really in the cards, but being able to use Taric on either our choice of the Broadwing or the Hound is pretty strong here. Getting that bonus attack power as we get into combat, gonna give us some opportunities for strength. And so with this, I was initially intending on Taric boosting the Petricite Hound, but I worry a little bit about Pale Cascade coming in on this Messenger, and so I don't want to lose out on the Broadwing to a combat trick if we don't have to, and so he's going to be the one we boost for the turn. Sure. Now, this is one of these visual effects I wish was a little bit easier to see, as we're going to come across cards like Guiding Touch that can heal our units. It can be a little bit tough to see what we're going to get our unit up to in terms of healing. But, yeah, you know, is what it is. Oh, the Sunburst coming in. I got wide-eyed as soon as this board came down. We were about to really pop off on this next turn, getting a really strong open attack into the Golden Aegis, but not quite in the cards. So here, let's start off with Taric. We're not really comboing hard this turn, and so if we find ourselves in a space to need to Pale Cascade after opponent plays a unit, then we can take that route. Otherwise, we can still get the Petricite Charger on board and look to get a reasonably formidable attack in this round. I think I'm fine to just continue attacking. We can't Pale Cascade any of these Tarics through the Mountain Scryer, but we can make an attack this way to where we have the 2 4-power Formidables that can combat the Scryer, mess up the opponent's combats just a little bit.
Can I paint you?
Interesting, he moved his block off of the Charger. The Charger's just better, right? Hey, there's Balin. The whole team turned up. Let's see what we can do. Maybe he'll try to spend all of his mana on making his Celestials cost half. This is not quite the moment for that kind of card to shine. All right, who's ready for some combat? Wouldn't be surprised just to see a concession roll in. Sunburst. Come on, dude. We're trying to show off the new cards, and you just keep casting Sunbursts over and over again. makes it a little more challenging.
No time to rest.
All right, let's just go ahead and pop in. I suspect we're going to be Golden Aegising after this combat, but what this open attack should do is I don't expect this attack to ever win the game, right? He's just going to get a block in, and we're not going to deal enough damage, but I want him to have to spend a bunch of mana on this turn to not really do anything. And so, you know, that big spell coming through like this is completely fine. We are going to look to spend 9 mana this turn. We could look to just Golden Aegius and then Tellstones. Our unit's only going to fall to 1 health. I think this is fine. Right, that would have been a reasonable time, though, to put, say, a +3/+3 on the Petricite Hound and just attack with it again.
Embrace the night, Aphelios.
Alright, well, old Moon Boy's gonna have to get into combat here. We'll put the barrier onto our stronger unit. I just assume that the Moon Boy's gonna be blocking a Formidable to prevent the damage.
It ends in silence.
And so we'll boost up the stronger unit here. All right, pretty close to lethal. I'm curious if, you know, we have this Targonian Tellstones. I'm curious in the space if we want to spend it on a Celestial of our own. You say, I see what you're doing there, opponent. Playing all of your Celestial style cards. Maybe we'll do the same. That can't be the way to go, right? We just got to do 2 damage. Shouldn't be any like AoE removal coming out of Targon. They just don't have it. Oh. I think we're okay here. Fangs. What a dumb card. And a second Moon Boy. Alright.
The brighter my light, the
Well,
stronger
I
it
think we're still
shines.
okay. He didn't attack, so we can hook the Fangs way out of combat. Not have to worry about any shenanigans from him. Sure, why not get Aphelios out of here as well? But now even if he wants to come in and hush the Petricite Hound, we're going to be okay. If he has the double silence Nightfall card, we're still okay. It's going to take a lot of work to get out of this this combat. All right, I think we're good. He's cycling and not doing anything. Cool. Alright, GG. Market a W. First battle with Bust in the Eternal Season. Victory unlocked. Feels good. Feels good. I knew we had it in us. Alright, next battle. I'm curious how this Eternal Season's gonna go, in the sense that, like with the last season, it was a bit of an MMR hot mess with everybody starting out in like Wood 2 or however that worked. And so now that we're restarting back at Platinum, I'm curious if the MMR stuff gets kind of fixed by the time the open event rolls around. It's it was just a real whirlwind of opponents you were facing and that kind of thing, since it tries to rate everything off your MMR, and I think it did Eternal MMR based off your Eternal ladder rank, and got kind of crazy. I know as we go through the standard opens we play against kind of the cream of the crop of opponents in the opens, and it felt a little bit more varied in the Eternal space. But alright, reasonable enough start here. We're up against Gwen Katarina, Red Gwen, if you will. I don't typically like coming down and interacting with these early boisterous hosts, but since he has two, I'm okay with taking one of them down with the Broadwing. I think that this is a reasonable way to go after these combats. His Rune Squire is going to be supercharged now. Really surprised to see him make a block. Okay, that makes more sense. Just wanting to draw the cards, just as he has Hallowed 2, he's a very powerful attacker on that turn. But if he just comes in and drops Gwen, we can take her down with a Concerted Strike. Not so much worried about Katarina. She can get the free flip, but she's not really doing a lot on this board. This is not a tempo play in any way, shape, or form. I'm really surprised he's not just keeping this back to block with. He's about to get trucked. Hit for 6. Okay. I still feel pretty safe. We have the Concerted Strike in hand, so it's like opponent's going to be able to play like one unit next turn, and then we'll have Balin on board, and then on the following turn we can just Concerted Strike whatever his Hallowed unit is. I think that works for me. Yeah, let's try and take this 3-bank. We could have added in Taric and tried to make a big value-y play off of Taric and copying the Pale Cascade, but I don't think that's really necessary here. I miss Concerted Strike, man. We don't get as a Demacia lover. It's a bit unfortunate not having that thing around. And oosh, that's not what you want to be doing. Starting your turn off with a little Katarina. No, thank you. Hey, GG. Whew. 100% win rate, 2-0 start. Good job, team. Standard sucks. I love it. Give this guy a little heart emote. Standard sucks. I wonder if he just brought the name change in for today.
Night flowers upon my blade.
Alright, Petricite Hound can come in. I like hanging on to Ranger's Resolve whenever it turns up, especially as opponent has damage-based removal spells. So we'll see if it gets to do any work this game, but powerful enough start right from the get-go. We will catch back up on mana next turn.
Her flowers bring the moonlight with them.
Sure. Just spending a ton of mana to kill off our 1-drop.
We will resist.
You gotta love seeing your opponent spend that full 3 mana to take down your singular Petricite Hound. Now, interesting. Do we even need to bother with this Ranger's Resolve mana? Like, if we don't bank this turn, we're never gonna have the mana to do it. And I don't think we do. I'll go ahead and play the Esmuth first. I intend on adding the Fleet Feather Tracker and the Balin, but we have this opportunity to just kill Viktor if that's who comes down next turn. Like, he should be having to really invest in this Fleet Feather Tracker right now, or his curve is just kind of fucked. Damage squad ready to party. Wow, that's slow. Maybe you just wait till combat for that. Alright, let's boom him a little bit. This is the kind of space to where you can really see the strength of a Mountain Sojourners as it's able to boost our Esmus next turn, add ton of stats to the board, and then the elusives are very challenging to block. This is one of the very interesting spaces you'll see turn up with the Mountain Sojourners, in the sense that the opponent can kind of like get the upper hand on ground-based combat, but you can find these boards to where you get 2 Esmuth and a Mountain Sojourners on board, and then they get like +5 stats, and then you rally and they get another +5 stats, and you elusive hit for 15. Pretty cool what you can do. Up, kitty. Got a kitty wanting to hang out though. Are you gonna spend time with us? What do we got? Aftershock into Esmuth. Okay, sure. Got a kitty encounter over here. It's the two that usually hang out on the video. They don't particularly like each other, and so they're over here having the showdown of sniffs.
One foot in front of the other.
I'll lead the way.
Right behind you.
All right, not bad though. Pretty high-powered combat about to roll through here. So let's see. Sojourners. Into Esmuth, into Tayari. Tayari, I guess we'll just boost our worst unit. So if he's going to do something, things are kind of spread out. Coming through pretty hard here, pretty strong. Feels good. Feels good, my dudes. Says, oof, these blocks all suck. the Stellacorn is not at its prime in these kind of attacks. It wants to see Legion Rearguard coming at you. All right, so I mean, we won't count our eggs before they hatch here. You never know what kind of nonsense are going to come out of these decks, but feeling pretty good here. We just invoking a 7-cost card. Okay. I guess you can play that next turn. Just directly get that Galio-based concession. Feels good. Feels good. Alright, next battle. So, in the space of life, I recently completed the Barbieheimer weekend. It took, what is this? We're at like the middle of August, so it only took me a month, which is pretty good. I honestly, it's tough to remember that, like, coming out of COVID, that you're still allowed to go to the movies and stuff. And so, like, I'd seen like 1 or 2 along the way. It's like I know I'd seen like, I can't remember exactly what we saw as soon as like the kind of COVID restrictions were lifted. I think I went and saw like the Robert Pattinson Batman with my mom or something, and then just didn't see another movie for like a year. It's just like so easy to forget that you're allowed to go to the movie theater and watch them and stuff. And so we're starting to get a little bit more in the habit of going to the movies and stuff. And I must say, Oppenheimer just didn't really do it for me. I don't know what ultimately the problem with Oppenheimer was, in that the way I kind of looked at it in my most certainly a most certainly a movie critic's opinion is it felt like 3 or 4 movies all smashed together. I felt like Barbie was just like a nice cohesive movie, and it was light and fun, and it still had an important and powerful message to it, but coming in and watching Oppenheimer, it just kind of felt like what's his name is number one, always trying to really get you in the brain, right? Christopher Nolan always has to get the really smart as it gets brain piece working on your nugget and stuff. I don't have a better way to describe it, but that's what he's trying to do to you, and I just kind of feel like there was like, it could have been an entire movie just kind of based on kind of the aftermath and the thoughts of generating the atomic bomb, and it could have just been an interesting piece on Oppenheimer himself. It had just like 3 or 4 different angles, and it felt just like it had to be like he went to the studio and said, hey, here's my 4.5 hour long movie, and they're just like, fuck you, dude. It's gotta it's gotta be a little bit more cohesive and smaller than that, and he didn't do a good job of reeling it in my opinion. My professional opinion. So do we want to get involved here? I'll stop talking about Oppenheimer. I give my props to Barbie, and we'll call it a day there. But we just need to get like built up on board a little more. This Sun Guardian is kind of scary, but we do have a concerted strike in hand. We can even just take the damage from it if we really want to, but I don't think that's going to quite be in the cards. I'd like to get a really good Ranger's Resolve here if we can. And I like the idea of being able to concerted strike down the Sun Guardian. And so we'll see if that comes together. Our stat line at the moment can handle it between the Sojourners and the Petricite Charger. But let's see how scary this gets. Could always just throw a unit away in front of the Sun Guardian. But, like, coming out of this combat, like, I don't want to lose Tayari. And I don't want to lose the Mountain Sojourners. Those are the two big ones. I like hanging on to a secondary challenger where we can, so we can hook Dum Dum down here out of combat, hook the Sun Guardian out. And so with that in mind,
Careful.
we can just get blocks like this. Then we can put the bird in front of the Sun Guardian, so we aren't at like lethal range. Now we could just Ranger's Resolve. So we can see where this gets the opponent in the sense of, you know, if he starts playing Pale Cascades and shit in the middle of this combat, we do still have the Concerted Strike. Might coming in is something that's probably worth trying to Concerted Strike through. He didn't Pale Cascade, but I kind of feel like at this point that if he had it, he would have just A, just played it, and B, I'm not risking a Nox and Fervor. Like, I guess we get... Oh shit, we weren't even... Did I click the wrong one? I clicked the wrong one. Fuck us. Alright, well, hopefully we're not dead. Hopefully we're not dead. We're dead. Alright, and so the problem there with Nox and Fervor as well is if we are really going to be trying to take that unit down, you can still just Nox and Fervor one of our Formidables, because that's where all the damage is coming from. But that's kind of an interesting space. I have to get back in the mix of playing against Samira Leona. I forget that deck has Might in it, and so it's kind of awkward in that sense. We probably should have just blocked their Legion Rearguard, just stopped everything, and said if we make it into this next turn, we're probably just going to win the game anyways. So what is this? Freylord Shadow Isles with no champions in it? It's not the Spiders deck. I assume it's just going to be some dumb control deck. And with that in mind, this is a kind of tough mulligan on the Mountain Sojourners, but I don't think we're going to smoothly be attacking with it. Doesn't get to attack until turn 6. But this is pretty decent in terms of an attack on turn 4, curving Bird into Esmuth into Taric. I was curious if this Darkwraith was going to come in. Maybe the opponent has found the way to use this. The thing that came to mind with me was Soul Cleave, right? So you get this Dum-Dum on the board, and then you Soul Cleave it to make the 2 ephemeral copies, then you get to shuffle a bunch of stuff into your deck. And then from that point forward, you can also play stuff like the Undying, right? So you have secondary combos for your Soul Cleave. And then you're just, I guess, control decking really hard at that point, since it doesn't really hurt as much to lose your units to the Ruination. So I'm curious how it all pans out. I will say that a lot of the cards coming out of Shadow Isles now like really scare me in terms of the decks that I like to play. So we'll have to see if he starts to drop the scary cards with the Eradicate cheapened up and Withering Mist cheapened up, and the Soul Cleave thing being a card now. It's a fairly scary collection of stuff that can hit us. I think we can just get all in here, right? We do have to go back to that mindset that cards like Withering Wail do exist. So some of our one healthers here may not be as healthy as we like.
Beauty and life.
Alright, Taric, let's get him. I don't think we want to add Balin here. We don't have any units to be giving the bonuses to.
Look sharp.
So I think I want to do it this way. I'm just gonna... We can take a hook into the Avarosian Sentry where we win, right? Either we can tough up a Fleet Feather Tracker and hook it in, or we can Esmuth and hook it in. Like, we have them, but I think we can just trade away our worst unit at this point, because we're kind of close to just filling out board as it is, and this leaves us a little bit less susceptible to those high-powered removal spells that they can have. So I think that's fairly reasonable. Now you're just going to get trucked. Got the Aegis onto Taric, get the double rally for the turn. That should do it. GG. Glad we got to show that play off. You don't get to make that one too often. Good stuff. Where are all the Vladimirs at? Everybody's supposed to be out here playing Vladimir. I don't know what the deal is. All the Vladimirs I've seen these days are people trying to play Vladimir with Starspring. Let me tell you, that deck is dog shit. You heard it here first. Easy to let you know. That deck is not any good. So save yourself a couple clicks and just don't play that monstrosity. Go play some pirates like old Bust recommends. Get your Legion Rearguard aggro on and don't be trying to I just have. Here's the way I look at that style of deck. If you're not familiar with it, they're playing the new card that deals damage to your units as they come into play and makes them cost one less, and then they're playing Star Springs to, I guess, heal them all back and be a secondary win condition, but then also trying to play with Vladimir. And so it's like, ooh, I want to get all these landmarks on the board so I can't play units, so my Vladimir can't actually use his ability. Like, it just seems so dumb to me. In the same vein, you have this, like, real churn to where you're making all of your units cheaper so you can get more of them on board faster, and then you just fill out your board with landmarks so you can't even take advantage of it. I don't know. I don't know what content creator put that deck forth, but it just looks like dog shit to me, and so that's what it looks like. I will admit, like, the first time I saw the deck coming at me with the landmark hitting the board and the opponent flooding the board with units, I was like, oh shit, this is the real deal. I'm about to get aggroed right now. And then they were like Stellacorn into a Starspring. It's like, LOL. No thank you from that nonsense. All right, let's get back to the action here. This is a matchup I'm actually pretty interested in, playing against Poppy Taric. Or, I'm sorry, playing against Jax Ornn, and that it's a deck that doesn't interact pretty well. It just adds units to the board and tries to win the game through stats, and so it's not great at stopping us from doing what we're trying to do. But it's also just caught that nerf to fish fight, and so it's a lot harder for the deck to come in and pop off. We'll see how it goes. I'm gonna lead off with the Poppy here. She can currently survive combats with the Ruthless Raider. We can get her up to 5/5 this turn if we need to. Just want to see how the opponent brings these units together. So we'll go this way. Poppy's a 4/4, Bird is a 5/3. Now we can hook the 2/3 out of combat. He puts Ruthless Raider in front of Poppy. Fine. I'm not too worried about trading a catch for the Ruthless Raider at this point.
Stories untold.
Nice.
My heroic last stands never seem
We're
to
in pretty good shape. Get Taric down next turn and then really pop off 2 turns from now. These combats are 100% ignorable. Oh, not
Keep it
ignorable now.
moving, team. Let
See
me
if we can't.
change up my
Oh,
style.
not what I was expecting. Okay. Interesting.
Each life a rare jewel.
Alright, well, let's get to combat. We can get all the combats next turn. Little unfortunate we can't Golden Aegis and Concerted Strike, but we're very strong here.
Shatter them.
Go about it this way.
Look sharp.
Get a 4-power Taric. Poppy grows everybody, and then Poppy also gets tough.
Unyielding.
And then we'll follow up after this with the Golden Aegis. Or if he starts doing a bunch of weird shit, then we did just pick up the Tellstones and have some opportunities here. Cool. This one should be over. Now that he's tapped down below flash, like Harsh Winds kind of mana, we're definitely good.
Team now. What's for dinner?
Oh, I spilled tonight's stew in our last battle. Oops.
Alright, my friend, enjoy. Get to show off the full combo.
Dazzling.
That sweet Poppy flip, give everybody the big bonuses. Taric's gonna shove that rally directly onto Poppy. We'll get to attack again after this. Feels good, my friends. Feels good. GG. Alright. No complaints there.
Victory is a thing of beauty.
So it's interesting to me with Poppy. Like, I can't quite decide how I feel about Poppy in this deck. You know, if we're just kind of forcing Poppy in here because we're playing with the Formidable unit thing, or how it goes. Just I really started to heavily consider just cutting Poppy out completely and playing 3 copies of Taric and 2 copies of Galio, and then fitting in one more rando unit that just isn't a 4-drop. Just Poppy's so high powered. I mean, maybe the play is just to play 1 Poppy and 3 Tarics. I can't quite decide on how I want to do it if we're going to continue to play Balin the Benevolent, but it's like I do still really enjoy playing Galio, so I don't entirely want to remove Galio from the fold. Let's just go ahead and add Esma. It's like, I'm not amped about this Petricite Hound. It can be useful on, you know, like turn 6, when we just add the singular unit to the board, or a space like this, you know, exactly in the sense that we can add Broadwing, we can add Petricite Hound, and then have all the Formidables on the board. I don't think we want to get him down, though. Like, opponent's not really doing anything at this point, but I do like the idea of keeping back this Pale Cascade mana for this upcoming combat. Yeah, he still gets to grow back here, and so I dig it. This will be a 5 toughness attack coming into the Bone Scryer. Might as well go for the takedown, I think. What's he gonna do? Flash freeze our Broadwing? Ice Shard, okay. Oh, that's not gonna do what we want. He's gonna get tough out of this. Oh, we do still get the kill. Planned it that way. He takes the damage and then gets tough, so he's gonna be a 4 health tough after the Broadwing does its magic. At the end of the day, I don't really care about this combat. This is very nice in the sense that opponents out here spending 1,000,000 mana doing shit that doesn't matter. And so, at the end of the day, this is all well and good to me. Got to come at him with triple Esmith in a rally. That's what you gotta like to see. Nice coming in with these extra stats already. Look how meaty this Broadwing is. You really playing Avalanche today? Ice Shard. Okay. Alright, so as it stands, none of his units are big enough to stop these Broadwings. If he does come in and play a third Ice Shard or a Troll Chant or something, I'm not super worried about it. And then this is one of these spots where I do feel, you know, it's kind of nice being able to, you know, not worry about flash freezes rolling in. I mean, there is a whole host of different cards you have to worry about in terms of,
I am here.
getting hit by you know, like calling strikes and quicksands and stuff, but flash freezes are so popular. Oof, we just draw into Sojourners.
You're
Nice.
Taric, the protector.
Climb well, and
Nice.
good luck on your journey.
They brave or stupid.
What you gonna do, my friend? One to everything. Okay. Still manage. That was enough. GG. Let's get ourselves into that final battle. Ooh, not a bad set of games up to this point. Not bad. No Seraphine yet. That's what we're waiting on, right? Somebody's out there brewing the most obnoxious Seraphine deck in the world. Say, I got a new removal spell. Let's make a ridiculous deck with Seraphine. Ugh. All right, opponent found, off to the races. This thing again. Back to Braum, Vladimir. Let's see what they do. So being on the odd attacks again, I don't like hanging on to our 4-cost champions and our 4-cost cards as we are on the odds. It just takes forever to actually come in and use them. I want to find something in the early game to at least get the ball rolling a little bit. Not the greatest of mulligans, but we did find Esmith, and then, you know, the opposing deck's not going to be bringing a ton of real aggression at us, so not too worried in that sense. Could be a very back-breaking Rangers resolve for us if the opponent's going to be really counting on their cards like Fracture and their AoEs to do something to our board. All right, the Scar Grounds, look out. Our combos are just up and running because we're playing cards that don't suck. The opposing players dropping in the Scar Grounds. I'm sorry, I'm not hating on Tough Palacio here. Everybody's out here trying to brew with Vladimir, but yeah, I feel like I was very correct and very spot on in our analysis of Braum, that this stuff is just all garbage. Like, these cards are all garbage, these combos are garbage. This is not a particularly impressive play, adding a bunch of 0/5 do-nothings, and like, how many AoEs do you need for these cards to not suck, right? You need a lot for this to actually resemble doing anything. And I don't know, I don't get it. I get doing this though. Get fucking wrecked. As we're out here wrecking, I saw the news this week that that Palo came to the dev team. If you're not familiar with Palo Vitor Damo de Rosa, arguably the strongest Magic player of all time, you can always look at those GOAT chit chats and have a few different points of sway, but he's 100% easily within the top 5 players of all time. I'm still in team Finkel. You can't take that away from a boomer my age, and it has to go with him. I still feel like LSV has done more for the competitive scene than pretty much anyone on the planet, and Palo still has an exceptional amount going for him. But he joined the LoR dev team. I'm not certain what his game dev chops represent, in the sense that most of those really well-known and like high-profile Magic players have found their ways into game dev at some point along the way. You know, not necessarily on like a Magic dev team or something, but somewhere along the way, whether they're not like a board game or something else, they tend to not spend their time 100% just playing Magic cards. And so I would say that he's done something along the way, and it's not just a hey, let's bring in the competitive, you know, guy kind of vibe. So interesting to see what comes of it. As Ruben Zoo has, I don't know if he's retired or if he's playing on Smurfs. You haven't seen Ruben Zoo topping the ladder in ages. So maybe Paolo's ready to come in and take his spot. Certainly more than capable of coming in and hitting that rank 1 on the ladder. You say I thought Brazil had the best players in the world, and then you just add Paolo to the mix, and so way to just push them even further up to the top. But nonetheless, back to action here. Not a bad set of games. I was pretty happy across the board with how a lot of this went. You know, it's very easy to have a big kind of build-around-y card like Balin and have to start asking some questions like, is this good enough on its own? Is this good enough if you don't draw any Formidables? You know, do you need these curves to where you go Petricide Hound into Broadwing, into Charger, into Balin for this guy to be relevant? Or is he good enough if we say just draw a Petricite Broadwing on 2, a Balin on turn 4, and then we play Galio on like turn 8? Is that really enough out of this card? Or do we need to be looking elsewhere, going back in that space of just playing a bunch of poppies, or can he stay or can he go? You know, to me, the inclusion of all these formidable units in large part is going to depend on what the meta looks like. And so if we land in this space like last season, to where the real kind of top dogs of the format were, say, Jax Ornn, which just doesn't interact very well, and then decks like Seraphine piles, like the Seraphine Plaza Guardian deck that just plays tons and tons and tons of removal that's all damage base, and then you have that space to where Petricite Charger can really kind of come in and pop off, then a deck like this can really shine. You know, if it's going against mid-rangey, grindy kind of decks and going against harsh winds and going against damage-based removal. But, you know, if the meta shifts to be in the kind of space to where Shadow Isles is relevant again, or Lee Sin-based decks should cause a number of problems for this kind of thing, I can see it kind of falling off the map. And so, you know, as a good day one deck, most certainly this really popped off. Is this something that can get you into Masters, you know, easily? We're not having too much trouble climbing right now as it is, but is this the kind of deck like 2 or 3 weeks from now we're going to be looking to play in the open events? I'm not entirely certain, but I think there's definitely something here. I was happy with how a lot of this went, and again, like, I think the way to kind of go with this is to probably just not play Poppy. I think that we can probably take Poppy out, play 3 copies of Taric, and then maybe add in another Tayari the Traveler, maybe add in another Formidable unit. I'm not entirely certain, but it's very tough for me to say that like I wasn't impressed with Poppy in this deck. It just feels like, you know, she wasn't really doing enough, and so it may even be a space to where you look to play a card like Giral or the Demacia Equipment, whatever that's called. It has some history in decks like this, and Giral's really strong, and putting tough on a formidable unit is quite good, and so that might be another kind of angle as well. But as kind of like a day one deck, right, getting in the mix, I feel like this was exceptionally strong and actually played out much better than I expected. And so, good set of games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. So, hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. So this is Bustin'. We thank you for being here.